Hi everybody! I'm sorry for the lateness of this video. I was expecting to be filming on Tuesday this week and filming a whip, working on one of my whips so that a video could come out on Wednesday and it would be a whip on Wednesday, but plans fell through because my bad really, I forgot to leave my tablet on charge, so I couldn't do any filming on Tuesday. So what I thought I would do is work on this book today, and this book is one that I managed to snatch off of Book Depository before it sadly closed, and it is an absolutely beautiful book. And I've been dying to work in it since I got it really, so I've been trying to hold myself back. But I thought, well, why not just go for it? And what I wanted to do is use watercolours. Oh, the title of this is it's Girls with Flowers or Girl with Flower, something along those lines. I've no idea who the artist is, I'm afraid, but if anybody can read that on the cover, or if anybody does know, please pop it in the comments in case anybody else wants to know. And yeah, I thought I'd work in this one today, just starting with the first page. And I wanted to work in this book with my watercolours, but doing slightly more kind of serious watercolours than I did last time with the Darius Sakasori image, where I just went a bit crazy with the colours. But what I want to do for this one is to try and copy the colours on this side and translate it onto this side, which might involve a bit of colour mixing and stuff like that. And I have done a little kind of test flower there in the corner, and the paper does seem to take the watercolour quite well, again if you're careful with the water. So I thought, yeah, why not try doing some kind of more serious watercolours and see how I go along. It's been a while since I actually tried, so I'm not sure exactly how well this will go, but let's see. So I'll zoom us in and we'll get started. Okay, so I've got my palette still set up from the last watercolour video, because obviously it doesn't matter if watercolours dry out, you just add more water and they reactivate. So I'm going to be using my palette as is, and I've brought in my little plate that I usually use for doing super tips as watercolour. I've brought that plate in. I thought I could do a little bit of mixing on there. For a start, I thought I'd try and mix a sort of skin colour. In the picture on the other side, her face isn't actually coloured, but I want to try and give her at least a kind of pale skin colour. So I'll try and mix a little bit of skin colour going on. See how we do. Okay, we've got a little bit of a skin colour going on here. I've mixed together some Chinese white with a little bit of lemon yellow and a bit of the rose madder kind of pinky colour, and that's come up with quite a good little flesh tone, I think. So I'll just give her a base kind of coat of that. Like I said, the picture on the other side hasn't really coloured her face or her hands much either, but I think that might look a little bit better if I do give her at least a base skin colour and try a little bit of shading on top of that. So we'll see how this goes, and it will dry a little bit lighter. Watercolour always dries a little bit lighter than it looks when you actually put it down. And from the tests I did on this paper, the colours weren't really kind of blobbing together as much as I usually like to see. It seems to work a lot better if you do the wet on dry kind of technique, where you let your first layer dry and then go in top with your colours. But I might be able to blend a little bit as well, so especially on her face, I'd like to see how that works. You know, I like to do my little blushy cheeks, so hopefully it'll work to give her a little bit of pink on her cheeks. But this will just be our base kind of skin tone. And for this picture I want to, or in this book actually, because most of the pictures are along these lines with the line art isn't exactly black, it's sort of a reddish grey maybe. So I think it will look better. It will look good if I try and use my watercolours. I'll see how the paper handles it after this one. But yeah, it is a beautiful book. I think I saw it on someone else's channel on YouTube actually, doing a flip through, and I thought it was really lovely, and I managed to get it on Book Depository before it closed down. If I can find it on Etsy, I think it's sold on Etsy. Most of these kind of Japanese or Korean kind of books are sold on Etsy quite a lot, so if I can find a link or anywhere else to buy it, I will put it in the description below. All the pictures are like this. There's a girl with maybe some flowers. Okay, let's see if we can make a kind of a more of a darker skin tone to shade on there. This shade is definitely pinker than my other shade I had going on, so let's see how this looks on top. My brushes are not the best. I haven't used watercolour for quite a long time, so my brushes are rather old and worn out by now. Really need to buy some more so I can work in this book. Yeah, that's working quite well, I think. I'll just add a few little bits of shading. Yeah, not really blending wet into wet, but you can do the wet on dry, which seems to be working quite well. I can work with that, I think. It's my usual top right light, so yeah, we can work with that. Let's see if we can blend that a little bit on her face there. The paper is starting to buckle slightly, but hopefully it'll hold out for the rest of the painting. Trying over some blushy cheeks. I think I'm going to lighten this rose madder a little bit. Very watery, we can blend that in. Not terrible. If all else fails, we can shade on top with pencils, but I'm hoping to just use watercolour mainly. And I've tried to leave a little bit of a highlight along her jaw as I usually do. Going in my lightest flash colour there to blend it out a little bit. She's got some more obvious lips painted in, so I can try and add those in. Not sure if I'm seeing this at the right kind of angle to be able to do it. Yeah, that's not too bad. We do have quite a dark brown colour down here, so we'll try mixing in the raw umber into a bit of burnt sienna. Do seem to have a little bit of yellow coming in at the bottom there. So yeah, on her face, I did actually mix white into my watercolours when I was making the colour. So I ended up using those a bit more like gouache, however you say it, on her face there. But hopefully once it's dry, it'll all work out. So adding white paint into watercolour does make it kind of thicker and more opaque and more like gouache, so I think that's what's ended up happening up on her face. I said that it had been a while, I was rusty, so, but I'm just going to carry on, see how we turn out, because I do love the pictures in this book and I would hate to just abandon one because my technique was slightly wrong. That's just a little bit of the straight raw umber I'm putting in there. The shadow, trying to see if we can make this blend more. Of course it isn't watercolour paper, so you're not going to get the nice watercolour effect. I'm hoping it will hold up though. And it does seem to hold up more towards the wet on dry kind of technique. Definitely weird stuff happening down there. I'll have to get back into that once the first layer's dry, I think. Okay, this is all That's all that kind of shade. It moves up into a more golden colour, but we do have some of the darker colour around her hands. And then there, sort of, this little curl here is darker. And behind the back of her head here. I know what would happen if I tried putting water on the paper first. That might be an interesting experiment. This paper is buckling a little bit though, so I'm not entirely sure it would hold up to that. And the paper is seems to be a little bit shiny actually. So the paint isn't sinking in, it's more sitting on the top, which is probably why it's better to work wet on top of dry and let your layers dry first. But we will see. Let's just pick out all the darkest areas. Maybe shade on top of what we're doing just with the raw umber. But it has been quite a while since I actually did watercolour. Okay, we do have a more golden yellow ochre colour coming in around here, so I'll add a little bit of that to the burnt sienna. More of a golden yellow, that strand coming up over the top there. And sienna, and we have that coming behind our collar here. Just emphasise that kind of curve there. Give her hair a bit of movement. Which is basically how I would colour it if I was colouring pencil. And more lighter golden colour again then. With watercolour paints, you can't paint light colours on top of dark colours unless you add lots of white and use them as in the same kind of way as gouache. So you really need to start with your lightest colours and work on top of them. I think I might need to add in a slightly more darker colour here. Okay, going straight in with raw umber down here. Kind of jumping around all over the place, but that's what I tend to do while I'm drawing. This brush is definitely not the best. Moving further up. Okay, we're looking good there, I think. Now this is just mixing with the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna to give a kind of a more kind of golden reddish colour. You can add more layers to deepen the colour. Not trying to follow exactly the picture on the other side, just sort of using it as inspiration really, of ideas of where and how I can use the colours. Just using a little bit of straight yellow ochre and I've watered down along the edges. This is just a little bit of straight burnt sienna. I can see some bits on the illustration that are more reddish kind of gold, so thought I'd see what that would look like if I added a few of those in. Let's try some here. It's slightly a bit too watery, I think. That off a little bit. This is just a straight raw umber. Add in some shadow, a little bit of detail of the hair strands. Possibly not the best brush to be attempting that with. Yeah, not too bad. At the end of the day, this is mainly for practice because, as I said, I am completely rusty when it comes to watercolours. It's been a long while since I did it actually seriously, instead of just for backgrounds or, you know, colour straight from the tube for a bit of fun. So it's a learning experience. Back into practice. Might have to be some white gel pen highlights somewhere along the way. This is yellow ochre with a tiny little bit of the burnt sienna. So getting towards the top of her head now, so the colours seem to be getting more towards the yellow, kind of yellow ochre. I'm just trying to map out where the original illustration has its shadows carrying on. Just slightly darker, I think. So this is some raw umber over the top. That yellow ochre I just laid down. A bit more of the burnt sienna to our yellow ochre. We need some shadow behind her shoulder. This is pure yellow ochre, just trying out what that one looks like. I think once we start trying to build that up, that should work quite nicely. Hi again everybody, sorry about that, my tablet keeps cutting out. Hopefully I can get some sort of video out of this. I have moved on quite a bit since you last saw me. I've continued on with the hair up here, just using the same kind of techniques as we were before. Layering with the different colours of yellow ochre, burnt sienna, raw umber. And we're mixing those together, maybe mixing in a little bit of white to shade her hair there. This is just the raw umber. I'm trying to add in a few more darkest shadows. Another layer, maybe behind her head and into her hair. I have also done the shadows on her white kind of dress or blouse here. And I will show you how I did those in a minute, hopefully. We've kind of skipped ahead about an hour now because two kind of half an hour segments just got deleted when my tablet crashed and I couldn't recover them. So hopefully I've got enough on film to show you what I was doing. And I don't know if I've actually said it now on camera, but I will be going into her hair and adding a few of the kind of white gel pen highlights that I usually use. And there'll be more onto this side of her head than there will be on the other side of her head because of the way the light is coming. So I will go through and do those in the end. I have blended her face a little bit better with a white polychromos pencil, and that's worked out a lot better now. So yeah, I'm a lot happier with how that's looking. I might go in now and define her lips a little bit more. Okay, as I said, I was going to show you how I did the shadows on her blouse, her dress at the bottom here. Moving on to the shadows on her blouse, how I did those. I mixed a little bit of the yellow ochre with a bit of a Chinese white to get a kind of pale yellow colour, pale sort of ochre yellow. And I added in a base for the shadows. Like that, and then I just went over the top of that and added in the shadows the same as they are on the illustration with a kind of a diluted Payne's grey. So I used that on top there. And the shadows on the collar of her dress, I've already given this a couple of pale coats of the lemon yellow. I don't want to take it too bright because the flowers are going to be the brightest yellow, hopefully, in the picture. So I put the shadows on her top. I'm mixing the raw sienna with a little bit of the raw umber. And then maybe we'll go over the top of that with grey, depending on how it dries. I think that one under her collar is a little bit bright, so let's try and dull that down. Blot it off with a little bit of water. There we go. Okay, we have a little bit of grey now. I'm going to try going over these shadows, see if that is something similar. Just adding a few extra shadows onto this dress as well, especially under her, where her arms are coming up, just to make those arms stand out a little bit more. Make them look as if they're coming closer towards us. Okay, I've brought in my white gel pen now. I'm going to add a few highlights into her hair, and I've also brought over my black polychromos and burnt umber castle arts to maybe add in a few shadows here and there, just to see if we can get a bit more contrast going on, see if that works. There'll be more highlights over this side of her head because that's the way the light's coming in the original illustration, so I've just copied that over. Don't want to go too crazy with those. I want to see if I can bring a bit more contrast. Let's see. I did want to keep it mainly watercolour, which it is, I think, but I want to see if I can have a bit more of a deeper colour. I don't think actually that the paper would take a lot more without pilling. I'm just adding this in on my own without really looking at the illustration. I'm hoping it's going to look about right. Okay, let's bring in the black. For a few little touches. I don't want to go overboard with it, but just for a little bit of extra contrast for these areas where the folds are really deep. Blend that out a little bit with a bit more grey. Okay, I'm probably going to stop it there for today. I've already gone a little bit darker than I intended, but I think it's looking okay so far, and maybe next time we can carry on with the background and the flowers. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. See you in future videos. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye.